to dance. One of the oldest, most primal expressions in human history. The universal language of celebration. We dance to share joy at a wedding, to celebrate a success, or simply to lose ourselves in the rhythm of the music and set our souls free. Dance is the body speaking where words fail. It is grace, it is aesthetics, it is life energy. But in the story I will tell you today, dance is none of these things. In today's story there is no music. There is no joy. There is no celebration. There is only blood, sweat, the sound of breaking bones, and the desperation of feet that refuse to stop. The date is July 1518. The place is Strasbourg, a gloomy city of the Holy Roman Empire, located within the borders of modern-day France. We will look closely at the dancing plague, an event that proves just how fragile the human mind is, how contagious fear can be, and how deadly mass hysteria can become. This is a true nightmare where hundreds of people, driven by no external force but enslaved by their own minds, danced until they died. If you are ready, dim your screen brightness, and let us slip away from the safe arms of the modern world and journey into the dark, misty, and uncanny streets of the Middle Ages. The context. Before our protagonist, or victim, Frau Troffea takes her first step onto the street, we must understand that era and the state of mind of those people. Because for a spark to turn into a forest fire, the trees must be dry. In 1518, Strasbourg was like a bone-dry forest, waiting to burn. Try to visualize those years. A world without modern medicine, psychology, or even basic hygiene rules. At the center of life sits the harsh authority of the church, while the coldness of death roams the streets. 1518 was a year of consecutive disasters for the people of Strasbourg. First came famine. Then the harvest failed. Grain silos were emptying, bread prices were soaring. In that era, bread was not a side dish at the table. It was the only way to survive. Hunger was seizing not just stomachs but minds. Imagine the despair of a father unable to bring food to his children, the agony of a mother unable to silence her starving baby. The issue wasn't just hunger. Diseases were also rampant. Leprosy, syphilis, smallpox, and more. Death was like a casual stroller on the streets of Strasbourg. It could knock on the door any day, any hour, any minute. And hanging over all of this was a fear so powerful that the modern mind can scarcely comprehend it. The fear of hellfire. The church constantly told the public that they were sinners, that these disasters and hardships were God's punishment. Was there a famine? You are sinners. Did a disease strike? You didn't pray enough. People tried to live under the threat of divine wrath every second of every day. Their souls were exhausted. Their nerves were frayed. Society was like a bomb ready to explode, waiting for its pin to be pulled. And that pin was pulled suddenly on Tuesday, July 14, 1518. The incident begins. That day the weather was likely hot and stifling. The smell of sewage and rotting garbage had permeated the narrow cobblestone streets of Strasbourg. A woman named Frau Troffea opened the door of her house and stepped out. Historians don't know much about her. Had she fought with her husband? Was she exhausted from hunger? But at that moment she stopped in the middle of the street. Neighbors were watching her. Perhaps someone called out, "Are you okay?" But no sound came from Troffea. Instead, her body began to move. This was not like the graceful swaying one does to music. Her eyes were staring into the void. Her face held a dull, expressionless look. Her arms flailed randomly into the air, her legs stomping the ground with rhythmic but clumsy movements. It was as if a puppeteer was brutally yanking her strings from above. Left foot, right foot, hop, spin. Left foot, right foot, hop, spin. There was no music, only the sound of her feet on the cobblestones and her heavy breathing. At first, people thought she had gone mad. Her husband came and tried to stop her. "Stop now, come home," he said. But the woman didn't hear him. She was in a trance. Minutes turned into hours, hours into seconds. The sun climbed to its peak, the suffocating heat bore down. Troffea kept dancing. The sun set, the cool of the evening rose. Troffea was still dancing. Night fell, candles and torches were lit. Troffea, dripping in sweat and shaking with exhaustion, danced without stopping. A standard human body cannot withstand this much exertion. But she was under the influence of a superhuman, or perhaps inhuman power. Her feet were swollen, her shoes shredded, blood beginning to drip. Her face was full of pain, yet her legs refused to stop. For exactly 6 days. Yes, she danced non-stop for 6 days. The contagion. And the most terrifying part was that this madness was contagious. From the crowd watching her, others began to jump into the street as if hypnotized. First a neighbor, then a stranger. Within a week, 34 people had joined Frau Troffea in that silent and eerie convoy. The streets were filled with people groaning, screaming in pain, crying yet unable to stop dancing. By August, the number had reached 400. Imagine the scene. Hundreds of people in the town square, crashing into each other, spinning, jumping. Most had bloody feet. Some were hallucinating, some were begging for help, but their legs would not stop. The Strasbourg City Council was in a total panic. This wasn't a rebellion you could send soldiers to crush. It wasn't a crime you could throw them in jail for. It wasn't a plague as they knew it, so you couldn't quarantine it. The city rulers, nobles, and clergy held an urgent, serious meeting. And they consulted the most learned men of the time, the doctors. The fatal mistake. 16th century medicine was very different from today's. Doctors of that time believed in the humoral pathology, theory dating back to ancient Greece. Humoral pathology involved balancing 4 fluids in the human body: blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. The doctors examined these dancing people and made a diagnosis that was considered scientific enough for the time but would lead to disaster: hot blood disease. They said, "These people's blood has overheated. It is pressuring their brains. The body is trying to expel this excess energy. That is why they are moving involuntarily." So what was the cure? The doctor's advice was this: let them dance. In fact, help them. Help them expel their energy so their blood will cool down and they will recover. And here the administration made one of the biggest, most horrific mistakes in history. Instead of stopping the epidemic, they decided to exacerbate it. They cleared the city's largest grain market. They built a massive wooden stage there. They gathered the dancers on this stage. Going even further, they hired professional musicians so these people could keep the rhythm and heal faster. Paid drummers, pipers, and horn players were brought to the stage. Think about it. You are giving a ceaseless rhythm to people who are already in the clutches of death, physically and mentally broken. This was no different from pouring gasoline on a fire. When the music started, that horrific ritual accelerated. The rhythm of the drums merged with their heartbeats. Now, not just the sick but healthy people coming to watch were caught in the magic of the rhythm and joined the crowd. The marketplace turned not into a place of healing, but into a slaughterhouse. Under the scorching sun, amidst dust and heat, people began to collapse one by one. Heart attacks, brain hemorrhages, kidney failure from dehydration. According to historical records, during those days 15 people were dying every day simply from dancing. The musicians kept playing, those still standing danced by jumping over the corpses, and the dead on the ground were dragged to the sides and carried to mass graves. The Strasbourg square looked like a scene straight out of Dante's Inferno. The music was playing not to entertain but to kill. The city council finally realized that the more dance strategy was utter nonsense, that it wasn't healing people but killing them. The stage was dismantled. The musicians left. Science, or the science of that era, had failed. There was only one thing left for people to take refuge in: faith. A whisper was circulating among the public. People whispered to each other in fear, "This is not a disease. This is the wrath of Saint Vitus." In Christian belief, Saint Vitus was a figure believed to be the patron saint of epileptics and dancers. According to legend, if you angered Vitus, he would punish you by forcing you to dance. The city administration adopted this folk belief and completely changed their strategy. Strict bans were enforced. Dancing in the city was absolutely forbidden. Music was forbidden. Even activities thought to anger Saint Vitus, like gambling and prostitution, were completely banned. The city fell into a deep silence. But the real solution was found in a religious ritual. The dancers were bundled into wagons. They were taken far from the city to the Saverne region, to a Saint Vitus shrine behind the mountains. There, a ritual was performed that was spine-chilling yet strange. The priests put red shoes on the feet of these poor dancing people. Why red? Perhaps it symbolized blood or fire. Then they sprinkled holy water on them, recited prayers, and made them circle around the wooden statue of Saint Vitus. And miraculously, this ritual worked. Those who wore the red shoes heard the prayers and believed they were forgiven, slowly stopped. The convulsions lessened. Their gazes returned to normal. Their bodies found peace for the first time in weeks. By September, the epidemic had largely subsided. Left behind were hundreds of dead, a traumatized city, and unanswered questions. The scientific explanation. Now, if we return from 1518 to the present day, to the bright world of modern laboratories and psychology clinics, what really happened that day? Why did hundreds of people dance non-stop? Historians and scientists have sought the answer to this question for centuries, and we are left with two strong theories. The first theory is based on a biological cause, ergotism poisoning. At that time, the staple food of the poor was rye bread. In years that were damp and rainy, a purplish, mold-like fungus called ergot would grow on rye spikes. Coincidentally, this fungus possesses the same chemical structures as the drug we know today as LSD. So, a person eating this moldy bread could experience severe hallucinations, suffer convulsions, and feel a burning sensation in their body. In the Middle Ages, this was called Saint Anthony's fire. This theory sounds logical, doesn't it? People having hallucinations. However, modern scientists view this theory with skepticism. Why? Because ergotism poisoning usually constricts blood vessels and cuts off blood flow. People's fingers turn black, become gangrenous, and movement becomes difficult. It is biologically almost impossible for someone poisoned by ergot to find the energy to dance for days. Someone poisoned couldn't dance, they would crawl. Therefore, we are left with a much more frightening, much more complex explanation. The second and strongest theory, mass psychogenic illness, or by its old name, mass hysteria. To understand this, we need to delve into the working principle of the human brain. Our brain can lose the fine line between reality and imagination when under stress. Think of the people of Strasbourg in 1518. Famine, disease, and the fear of death. Most importantly, a deep, powerful belief that Saint Vitus would punish them. This belief was so strong that the fear turned into an expectation. When Frau Troffea perhaps had a nervous breakdown and started moving, the mirror neurons in the brains of those who saw her affected them as well. They carried the same fear. Their subconscious thought, now it's my turn. Saint Vitus has taken me too. These people were not acting. They were not faking it. Their minds had taken control of their bodies. Their consciousness shut down, and their beliefs began to manipulate their bodies like invisible puppets. In medical terms, they were in a dissociative trance. Even though their bodies were in pain, their minds commanded them not to stop. The biggest proof supporting this theory lies in how the treatment worked. Remember, the doctor's medical intervention, musicians, and a dance floor didn't work. In fact, it made the situation worse. But the priest's spiritual treatment, red shoes and prayer, worked. Why? Because the source of the illness was not biological, but psychological. People got sick because they believed they were cursed. And they healed when they believed they were forgiven. It was the most dramatic example of the placebo effect in history. If you go to Strasbourg today, you can see calm, peaceful cafes, stylish shops, and tourists on those cobblestone streets. Few traces remain of those dark days, other than a few old engravings displayed in museums. However, the dancing plague of 1518 continues to be one of the most important warning signs in human history. It reminds us of how powerful, yet how dangerous, a tool the human mind can be. It shows how rational thought can collapse when fear, stress, and superstition combine. It demonstrates that not just a virus, but an idea or a fear can turn into an epidemic. Perhaps today we don't dance in the streets until we die. But do we not experience our own mass hysterias in the modern world? Lynch mobs on social media, panic selling in the stock market, hoarding toilet paper. Though the form changes, that fragile nature of humanity, that sheep-like tendency to follow the herd, is still hidden somewhere inside us. So, the next time you get lost in the rhythm of the music and dance, be grateful that you can stop easily. Because 500 years ago, a group of people gave their lives just to be able to stop. Thank you for watching. Thank you for walking with us through the dark corridors of history tonight. You may turn up the brightness now. See you in the next video.